evening. In Philippians 4, verses 10 to 20, Paul is thanking the believers from Philippi for the support, most probably financial support, that they sent to him through Epaphroditus that visited him. In a world where traveling philosophers and preachers many times abuse people and enrich themselves, it was important for Paul to express his sincere thankfulness, but also to make his own view of the gift that he received clear to them. He says thank you in three parts. Firstly, in verse 10, he speaks about the joy he experienced when he received the gift. He says, I rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. And then he continues in verse 14 by saying that it was good of you to share in my troubles. And then he concludes his thanks by saying, I have received full payment and have more than enough, and your gifts are a fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing to God. You see, in this gift that Paul received from the believers in Philippi, he could see the hand of God, the provision of God, the care that God has for him, and therefore he rejoices in the Lord. He could also get affirmation of the fact that the believers in Philippi were still living together with him for the sake of the gospel. They still had koinonia with the gospel. And lastly, he could see that the Lord was continuing the good work that he started in the believers by using them to send this gift to him. It was therefore also important for him to give clear expression about his own attitude towards this gift. He says two things. Firstly, in verse 11 and 12, he says that he actually didn't need this help from the congregation, this gift. He says, I am not saying this because I am in need, for I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. And then in verse 17, he makes a second remark showing his attitude towards this gift by saying that I do not desire your gift. He wasn't out to get it. He wasn't planning and strategizing to somehow get the Philippians to send the gift towards him. Now, both of these remarks seem rather strange if you make it part of a thank you note. But so doing, Paul shows us and the believers in Philippi that there is so much more going on here than simply the exchange of money between him and the congregation. When he says that he has learned to live with excess and with plenty and with being in need, he is saying that he has learned to be satisfied, to be content in all of his circumstances. And now he isn't boasting in how self-sufficient or stoic he was in his view of life. No, he learned to be satisfied, to be content in all such circumstances, because he could do all things through him that gave him strength. And there is the basis and the direction of Paul's true thanksgiving in this part. This is why he can call this gift from the congregation a sacrifice before the Lord, and why he can say that he has received everything that he needs, because in receiving it, he once again experienced that the Lord is the one that cares for him. The Lord is the one that provides for him, for the congregation, for us, for all of God's servants, so that the gospel can be proclaimed, so that we can live to his honor. And therefore, Paul is thankful. Good evening.